What's up, hot dog? Today we're going to do an ASMR book review of this book that I just received and I'm very excited about. This is Comedy Bang Bang, the podcast, the book. So we're going to start by talking about what Comedy Bang Bang is and then diving into what the book is and who it's for. So for those unfamiliar with CBB, this is a comedy podcast that has been running for over 14 years now. It's created and hosted by Scott Aukerman, and the format is like a talk show where Scott usually has a celebrity, a musician, an author, comedian, someone of note who is promoting a project, and then the remaining guests are all comedians playing characters. We have some illustrated here who are often incredibly ridiculous and hilarious. Everything in the show is improvised, and over the years, many characters return again and again, building long histories and storylines. There was also a television show adaptation that ran for 5 seasons. The show followed a similar format, also introduced the role of a band leader, which was filled over time by Reggie Watts, Kid Cudi, and Weird Al Yankovic. The show was actually my introduction to the CBB world back in 2014, and I've been a fan ever since. So let's talk about the book. First of all, I know they say never to judge a book by its cover, but if that's true, why even have a cover? Just start on page 1. But anyway, I love the artwork here. We have Scott Aukerman and a collection of the show's most popular characters standing in an open door, representative of the show's open door policy. We also have the very cool logo created by, and I hope I'm saying this correct, Paul Hornschmeyer. Apologies, Paul, if I got that wrong. And we're going to see a lot more of that logo here in a moment. So if the artwork wasn't enough of a giveaway of the silliness that we can expect inside, the cover also notes that we have an introduction by Lin-Manuel Miranda, a rebuttal to the introduction by Weird Al Yankovic. We have a preface to the foreword by Tatiana Maslany. We have a foreword by Bob Odenkirk. We have a foreword to the preface by Patton Oswalt. And we have a preface by Jack Quaid. So we have the same kind of metatextual poking fun at itself and the medium that the show, both the podcast and the television show, was really known for. So before we dive inside, flipping over, we have a very nice spine, which is something I've never said before. It's nice, it's crisp and clear. We've got the title here, we've got that logo again, and then we have Scott Aukerman listed here. Beautiful. I think this is going to look really nice on a bookshelf. It's very bold. And then turning over to the back, carefully, we have an introduction and several blurbs by celebrities who have all been guests on the show. We have Paul Rubens, Zach Galifianakis, Adam Scott, Edgar Wright, John Hamm, Thomas Lennon, Gillian Jacobs, and Jack Black. The blurbs themselves give a decent idea of what to expect inside, from John Hamm's pretty non sequitur blurb here to Gillian Jacob making pretty specific references to her appearance on the show. For a fan of CBB, you're looking at this, you're reading this, you know that you are in for a treat. For someone who is not a fan or not familiar, I have honestly absolutely no idea what you might think of this, but I imagine if you're a fan of comedy and you came across this, it just might be enough to whet your appetite to see what's inside. So let's go ahead and do just that. Just briefly flipping through here, we can see there's a variety of art styles, of arrangements of text, interesting imagery. We have some photography of comedians in character costumes here. I think just flipping through, you get a quick glimpse of the variety that you're going to find inside. Starting here at the very beginning, we have again that logo on a nice yellow background, the pattern going across the page. I can't help but look at this and just imagine it as a wallpaper in someone's home, which would be truly insane, but I think it just pops so well. The colors here are great. This is really nicely designed. It looks great. Moving on to the title page, although actually just before the title page, I was very lucky enough to have pre-ordered this and was able to get a signed edition. So we've got signature here by Scott Aukerman. We have a little Paul F. Tompkins. And I am not sure at this point whether this is a Jason Mantzoukas or perhaps Jess McKenna. It looks like a JM. Jason Mantzoukas and Jess McKenna are both comedians and contributors to the book. So I am assuming it is one of them, but I have not discovered who it is. At this point, I'm just calling it Schrodinger's signature. So, moving on, we've got our big logo here again, got our title. And opening up to our table of contents, this is maybe a good time to just say what this book is. So essentially, this is a collection of written comedy bits created by recurring guests on the show. And the bits are mostly about the characters created by these guests. I think you can think of this book a bit like a sketch comedy show, but in book format. Think Mr. Show or Saturday Night Live, which is a confusing name, but in any case, this is a massive table of contents, and it gives you a pretty good idea of what we're in for. Just looking at some of these, normally I would guess this is a chapter. I wouldn't call these chapters. Really, it's just letting you know where the bits are. We've got Ho-Ho's How to Always Be Naughty. We have Morpheus the Dream Lord's Storybook. We've got Gino Lombardo's Diary and True Heroes of Long Island. I mean, we have, again, you just see the amount of variety and uniqueness that is here. And again, as I go through this, I ask myself, what would somebody who is unfamiliar with Comedy Bang Bang think about this? And I have to imagine you would just immediately be like, wow, there's a lot going on here. So pretty much all of these, maybe all of these, are all independent of one another. There's not a running storyline going through each. You could read from beginning to end, and I am doing that. I mean, that's a pretty typical order to pursue a book. But what you can also do is just open up to the table of contents here and just find something that sounds interesting. If you are familiar with the characters, you might just find a character that you like. If you're not familiar with the characters, just pick something that sounds interesting. So, say Longo Watch Repair ad. Maybe you're thinking, how is a watch repair ad going to be humorous? Well, let's flip over past a few other bits here, getting to page 30. And we have this great 2-page illustration of an ad for a watch shop. This is written from the perspective of Neil Campbell's character, the timekeeper, who works at his brother's watch repair shop, Longo Watch Repair. And the timekeeper is committed to calling customers of the repair shop repeatedly, we have here, he will call you every 10 minutes to let you know what time it is. That way you may carry on about your day with peace of mind, unburdened. So the timekeeper has a very heightened way of speaking, to put it one way. We've got a few quotes. "'Tis quite a wonderful thing indeed, time. Tick-tock, tick-tock." This is a common catchphrase of the timekeeper. We have "by the stars and moons above, what stroke of ill fortune befell your timepiece, rendering it impotent." So this is very representative of the speech of the timekeeper. If you know Neil Campbell and you've heard him do this character, you cannot help but hear all of this in his voice. It is written perfectly matching the character's voice. Also, just looking at this, it's just visually very nice to look at. There's a lot of little details here, such as the every 10 minutes part. We have a footnote here. Coming down to our footnote, we have a wonderful amount of time. This is such a well-designed page. You can kind of just go, let your eyes kind of wander around, and wherever you land, you're going to find on a nice little funny comedic bit, and you can just get absorbed into this strange little world for a moment. And demonstrating the variety of material here, we can go forward a page, and we've got this nice piece about Alimony Tony. This is a character from Paul F. Tompkins. We get this summary of the character, kind of a list of a description. So this is a case where if you're not familiar with the show or the specific character, you kind of can get some background here. And then here on the next page, we have a personals ad. Alimony Tony is looking for someone, perhaps, as he says here, I'm looking for someone who's looking for someone. So perhaps someone that he will marry within the year and then get divorced from within 4 years. So I love this just going from the personals ad to the big Longo watch repair. We get just kind of a nice quick look at the variety of presentations that we have going on. And while the book is mostly centered around characters, there are a few examples of just recurring bits with comedians that have been on, such as Andy Samberg's Hollywood Facts. So let me go to the table of contents. I didn't mark the page. I know it's around the middle, or 100, page 100. Andy Samberg's Hollywood Facts board game. We're going to come back to this in a minute. This is too good to leave. Let's see, here we go. So we have a board game here. This is Hollywood Facts, the theme song, the board game. This is another instance where if you're not a fan of the show, bear with me for a moment. We're gonna talk about who this book is really for in a little bit. But if you are a fan of the show and you've heard the Hollywood Facts theme song sung many times, you probably have it memorized. And we can flip over and see this is actually a full game, a thought out game with rules. You could actually play this game, although if you do adhere to Rule 7, you may end up drinking a lot of alcoholic beverages by the end. And a lot of these questions you'd be hard-pressed to provide correct answers to. And these just keep going, from the Do Your Facts cards to the Know Your Stars. We've got great reference to the slap heard round the world here. There's just so much here, and the humor is just what a fan of CBB would expect. We've got a great Entree Pinot Noir photo here. So again, I keep coming back to the question, who is this book for? And I think first and foremost, this is clearly for the fans. CBB fans can be pretty die-hard. They're going to know the references. They know the authors, the characters in the various segments. The book even pays homage to characters that have not been on the show proper, but are in some of the spin-off shows, such as we have Stu and Amber from the spin-off show Hey Randy, which is Tim Baltz's show. We've got a great segment about Randy and Carissa here, and then we have our nice little Amber and Stu text exchange that is very funny here. It's rather good even. That said, even though I think this is really for the fans, there is room for the uninitiated as well. I mentioned earlier that I got into the podcast through the TV show. I didn't even know there was a podcast until I'd maybe watched the first 2 seasons of the show. So I wasn't catching a lot of the references, but I still fell in love with the humor and the presentation of it all. And I think there might be room for that here as well. So we found ourselves on the Calvin's Triplets. This is a trio of characters by Taran Killam, Paul Britton, and Ryan Gall. And we get a really great summary of these characters who have appeared for over a decade on the show. It is admittedly hard for me to judge this as an outsider objectively, but I think if you're into just kind of absurd humor and silly characters, this is very funny. It gives you a nice introduction, and it sets you up to explore this truly amazing brochure of the Calvin's Triplets family, bee honey, taffy farm, and horse fighting ranch. I know that might be a lot for some of you. Like the Longo watch repair section, this just creates a world that you can get lost in. You don't even really need to know the characters to enjoy a lot of this. These pages are basically just funny names for horses. So, it's delightful. And I was so surprised. This is such an extensive and long segment. You can see they really took advantage of the brochure format, making it have games and reviews and schedules. There's a lot going on here. I am still making my way through this book from start to finish, but I have also just been enjoying flipping to random pages and seeing what's there. We've got a huge Andy Daly section, actually. We've got Martin Sheffield Lickley, a great Drew Tarver. We've got a little set list here, really highlighting again the diversity of styles. It's honestly really impressive how many people were involved in this. If I had any criticism to give, it would just be my own subjective wish for contributions from comedians that were maybe more involved in the earlier years. I'm thinking people like Tig Notaro, Nick Kroll, James Adomian, Brett Gelman, but I understand that the book, for one, can only be so long. There also may not be interest in reviving older bits, and it's really nice to see regulars from the last several years being highlighted. But for fans that maybe listened for several years and then dropped off, there are lots of characters from early years of the show. We have Marissa Wampler and Charlotte Listler, Forval, Bob Duca, Werner Herzog, Dalton Wilcox, many other Andy Daly characters. There's also a great tribute to Harris Whittles that we just passed with an extended section of Harris's Foam Corner, which is hilarious and terrible and cringy and exactly what you would hope for. So I really did not expect to talk this long about this book, so I'm going to wrap it up here and just say that I give this book a solid C+, which I know in CBB world is high praise. If you're a fan of comedy, check it out. If you're a fan of Comedy Bang Bang, the podcast, you should already own this. If you don't own it, just get it. Just get it now. It's great. All right. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye for now.